It is said that Americans are obsessed with the idea of speed, an obsession upon which they hold no limit. For this is the jet age. And while some men speed through space faster than sound, earthbound daredevils attempt to break new speed barriers with stock cars, special, highly tuned models of the same passenger cars that are driven by America's new freewheeling peripatetic population. Actually, stock car racing is a proving ground for the auto industry, the torture rack upon which engines, equipment, and tires are pushed to the limit. How tires respond when driven at high speeds often means the difference between safety and disaster. You should know more about them. Not just tread design or the rubber content, but what's on the inside where it counts. In fact, you might call this the inside story. Today, a great deal of our long-distance driving is done on superhighways and turnpikes that permit or even require traveling at high legal speeds. How well your car handles depends greatly upon your tires. Traveling at high speeds, tires get hot, building up pressure through constant flexing and pounding on the road surface. Under some conditions, tires can heat up to more than 250 degrees. At sustained speeds over 75 miles an hour, and you shouldn't be going that fast anyway, even some brand new tires are beyond their capabilities. Sometimes when heat and pressure build and the tire hits a rock or a chuck hole, fortunately, this type of trouble happens less and less, as today's tires are safer and stronger than ever before. But there are other important factors that affect tire performance. Maybe you never thought about it. Tires have a lot to do with the degree of control you have over your car at high speed, particularly when pulling out, passing another car, swinging back into your own lane, or when someone enters a busy highway from a side lane or feeder road. For safety, you should maintain normal speed. Gauge your distance and timing. Slow-ups cause crack-ups. How well your car reacts to quick maneuvers depends, in large measure, upon the directional stability of your tires. How many times have you been in situations like this? Or this? What happens? When you pull out, the wheel turns the way you want it to go, but the tire on that rim wants to go straight ahead. How well your tires respond, follow the rims, determines the stability of your car, the control you have. What's inside the tire, the cord, is what really determines your control. Unfortunately, most drivers know very little about tires. For instance, would you believe that the average passenger car tire is built to take more punishment of its kind than tires on a racing car? Ever see anyone kick a tire to test it? It really doesn't prove anything, but they'll do it every time. Or how many times do we hear,
"What I want on this car is rubber like the racing drivers use."
Ralph, if I gave you a racing tire, you wouldn't ride on it.
Why wouldn't I?
Come with me a minute and I'll show you. First place, it's too hard. You know they carry up to 70 pounds of pressure? And look here. No sidewall protection like you get on yours. You see, Ralph, rubber isn't what gives you all your protection. Rubber gives you traction. The cord is the backbone of the tire. It's what's inside that counts. Man, here's your protection. You want to see how a tire is built.
At one of the nation's leading tire testing laboratories is a demonstration unit that shows step by step the construction of a tire. Tires are built on a drum around which 2 or more layers of cord fabric are wrapped and sealed. This is the heart, the core, the guts of the tire. The wire bead is what grips the rim. The tread and sidewall rubber is laid over the carcass of the tire. The building drum is collapsed, and the tire is ready for molding and curing. A sort of pressure cooking operation. And there you have a finished tire. In this case, an exact replica of the real thing, from carcass cord to tread. Would it surprise you to know that 3 out of 4 new cars rolling off U.S. assembly lines come equipped with tires made with rayon cord? They're no cheaper. They cost just as much to make as any other comparable tire. One important reason why car manufacturers insist on rayon is that it gives you a smoother ride. When rayon cord tires cool, they won't develop the flat spots that give you a rough ride. We demonstrated this with cars that have been sitting out all night. Put water on the hoods, water in a glass, photograph the difference. This one's on nylon tires. This one's riding on rayon. The vibrating drops of water show visual evidence of what you feel. Here's an even more convincing demonstration. Here's how one laboratory makes the flat spot test. Tires are heated by running on a test wheel, then stopped and allowed to cool under load. Then the wheel is started again. The tire now on the test wheel is built with nylon cord. As it speeds up, the sound you'll hear is like a railroad car with a flat wheel. That's what it's like when a tire develops a flat spot. Look at that lever arm bounce, just as your car would do. Now listen to the difference when a rayon cord tire is put on the test wheel and run under the same conditions. Pretty smooth, huh? But even more important, rayon cord gives you better control when you need it. Ever see a piece of rayon tire cord? Each cord has several strands made of thousands of tiny filaments. Doesn't look like much to hang your life on, does it? But this is where the strength of a rayon cord tire begins, in the strength of each tiny filament. The strands of filaments are twisted together, then woven into a fabric that forms the backbone, the framework on which tires are built. You saw how tires are made. Here's how many tires are tested for strength. This is a slow-speed plunger. It applies steady, continuing pressure to a given point on an inflated tire until the casing gives. Unfortunately, this test is nearly meaningless because this just isn't how a tire ruptures. This slow test doesn't take into consideration the recognized effects of heat and speed on different cord materials. For this reason, scientists at American Viscose, one of the companies that makes rayon tire cord, designed and built a high-speed plunger machine. This device records the precise measurements for braking energy or impact resistance under conditions simulating those of tires in actual highway use. For instance, a tire is preheated up to 225 degrees, as hot as it might get on a summer day driving at high speed. A 3/4-inch plunger is fitted into the firing chamber. The weight of the plunger varies depending on the test. A technician sets the pressure of the firing chamber. This controls the speed the plunger will travel. He fires. At 15 milliseconds, the plunger did not penetrate the tire. He reloads, increases the pressure, and fires again. At 13 milliseconds, about 100 miles an hour, the plunger ruptures the tire. Comparable nylon and rayon cord tires that are similar at low speeds react quite differently when given the high-speed plunger test. At high speed, rayon has superior impact resistance, higher braking energy, a quality long recognized in U.S. government specifications. On the famous 4,400-foot drag racing strip at Atco, New Jersey, rayon and nylon cord tires are given a series of continuing tests by engineers who measure and compare performances under actual driving conditions. Let's hear what the engineer in charge has to say about these unique tests and about the specially equipped test car.
My name is Frank Akatowicz. This car has been instrumented to study its directional stability on the highway. That is, its ability to follow a course set by the driver. Now, we have instruments to sense the motion of the car and also the movement of the steering wheel as made by the driver. You'll see on the front fender and the rear fender sensitive accelerometers which measure the crosswise accelerating movements of the car. That is, the tendency of the car to dart to the right or to the left. Now, going inside the car, we have the 10-turn helipot driven by the brass gear fastened to the steering wheel. The signal from this helipot, as well as the signals from the fenders of the car, are displayed on the cathode ray oscilloscope in the rear of the car. And this oscilloscope is powered from the electrical system of the car, and both signals are displayed simultaneously so that the coordination between what the driver does and what the car does can be displayed visually. We photograph this visual display with a Polaroid land camera so that we can get an immediate picture of what happens.
Here are samples of the tests that are being run. One test maneuver is typical of the sudden turns that must be made when a driver tries to dodge an obstacle that suddenly appears in his path. The difficulty comes in trying to re-establish control. Changes in heading can occur much faster than the driver can correct them. In another test, the driver flips the wheel and lets go, a dangerous maneuver at high speed. But the rayon cord proves to respond quickly, brings the car safely back on course. In such circumstances, a forgiving set of tires can be a great help. The engineers say rayon cord tires won't prevent accidents, but they do provide a very welcome margin of safety over nylon when you need it most. For further proof, we went to the men who really know how to handle automobiles, the men who race the stock cars. At Charlotte, North Carolina, we brought in some of the top drivers in the country. Junior Johnson, veteran of 17 years on racing tracks and now building them instead of driving them. One of the great all-time competitors. Richard Petty won the NASCAR Grand National and Daytona 500 in the same year. Now teamed with his race driver dad, this 30-year-old Carolinian says, racing's strictly a business. Cale Yarborough, youngest in the new breed, entered his first Grand National when he was 17. Now one of the country's best stock car pilots, Cale has his sights set on winning the Indianapolis 500. Bobby Allison, four-time NASCAR modified champ. He's only 29 and one of the nation's top 10. Bobby has a rare combination of skills. He's a mechanic who builds them as well as drives them. Under the direction of veteran Jim Curley, technical director of the American Viscose Rayon Tire Cord Research Program, the pros agree to help him make a test. Curley lays down the ground rules. Each man will make several runs over a predetermined course. They'll use one set of tires, then another. At no time will they know when they're driving on nylon or rayon cord tires. We want to find out what they can tell us about the handling differences. The drivers themselves helped set up the test course, using both front and back straightaways of the 1.5-mile Charlotte Motor Speedway. Driving standard Ford, Chrysler, and General Motors cars at normal highway speeds, between 60 and 75 miles an hour, they really rolled rubber through those pylons. Now let's follow Bobby Allison. His job is to maneuver that car at top highway speeds and evaluate how it handles, how it responds when he changes lanes and cuts corners. When the driver had the feel of one set of tires, he pulled into the pit where a 4-man crew quickly put on a companion set made with the other cord. At no time did the driver know what he was riding on. We used 20 different sets of tires during the tests, 10 of rayon, 10 of nylon, all right off the shelves of half a dozen leading tire manufacturers. Bobby's now back on the course and giving his fresh set of tires the same test. Frankly, we didn't have the slightest idea what he'd tell us when he finished. Here he comes. Everything is unrehearsed, just as it happened. Jim Curley handles the mic.
Well, Bobby, how'd it go? Let's get comfortable. Take that helmet off.
Okay.
You were out with one set of tires, and you came back in. We changed tires for you. We put companion tires on to the first set. You went back out. We were interested in your comparison between these two sets of tires.
Well, on the first set of tires, I could make it through the front course at just about 70 miles an hour. Well, the car had a good bit of yaw. And I couldn't make it through the back course even down to 60 without knocking over the pylons. And then with the second set of tires, I could make it through the front course at over 75 miles an hour, very smooth at 70. And when I slowed down to about 60, I finally could make it through the back course.
How do you find this testing sedans as compared with station wagons?
Well, the station wagons handle a little bit poorer, so the conditions show up a lot quicker and a lot more severe in the station wagons.
Fine. Thank you, Bobby. We'll be doing this some more.
Well, Bobby seemed quite impressed with the rayon tires. Now, there's Richard Petty passing the stand. Remember, these champs were chosen not only for their driving skills, but also for their ability to read right through a car's operation and tell us what effect tires have on how the car handles. Wow, that was a run. And here we go again. Petty's ready to give it another try. This trip on another set of treads. The average motorist never gets a chance to make first-hand comparisons like this and then record his observations right on the spot. In fact, the average driver would be in serious trouble in some of these situations.
Get that helmet off.
Wonder what Richard has to tell Curley.
We're interested in your comparison between the first set of tires you rode on and then the companion set that you just came in from riding.
To my reading, I would say that the first set was a little bit the better. They was more stable down the straightaway and through the corner booth. Any sharp maneuver, anything, with the first set, it was one way, and with the second set, it was just exactly the opposite. And it made it was real bad, really. And I would say that we would go with the first set.
Here comes Cale Yarborough now. See him whip that car through its paces? Man, this is driving. Cale doesn't know it, but we'll tell you. He's on nylon cord tires this time through. Just watch that car sway as he makes his turn. Here he comes again, this time on Rayon. The way we ran the tests impressed the boys with our fairness, our insistence that they give us the plain, unvarnished facts, just as they saw or felt them. Let's listen to Cale as he gives his verdict.
Tell us, did you prefer the first set of tires or the second set of tires?
Well, I really preferred the second set of tires. It gave the car a lot of, they were a lot more stable than the first set. The first set had a lot of swaying to them when you would go in and out of the pylons, and, well, the second set was just stuck better all the way around.
Okay, here's Junior Johnson at the wheel of another car. Junior was our skeptic. He did everything we asked, but he wasn't sure it was going to prove anything. This run through the pylons, he's on Rayon. We switched Junior's tires over to nylon cord while he stayed in the car. Then back on the course. 60, 65, 70 miles an hour. He made quite a run. Let's see how he takes them this time.
Okay, Junior. Only we knew which tires you were on, rayons or nylons, on that first run. Tell us, did you prefer the first run or the second run?
I preferred the first run because the second run the car weaved and waved a whole lot. Couldn't get through the pylon as good. They're not near as stable as the first set was.
You had an easier time with that first set of tires.
That's right, I sure did.
Here in slow motion is what was happening to the tires these drivers were testing. This is a nylon cord tire responding to a turn at 70 miles per hour. See the sidewall bulge as the tire corners? Now, a companion rayon cord tire makes the same maneuver. Notice the difference? Less bulge, less riding over onto the sidewall. This shows the superior stability of a rayon cord tire. For 3 days, we sent our drivers through the course, first on one set of tires, then on another. For 3 days, they put cars just like yours through tests that simulated situations the average motorist might encounter while traveling at high speeds on turnpikes and expressways. After each run, we called them in and recorded their on-the-spot evaluations.
Well, I like the first set of tires a little better.
How did they handle?
Well, first set of tires, I could go through the pylons at a little bit better speed than I could the second without hitting them.
Was the car easier to handle on the straightaway?
Well, on the straightaway, both sets of tires, it was hard to tell.
The big difference was in maneuvering the car in the pylons.
That's right. Any of the lane changing maneuvers was where the difference did show up.
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of difference. About the biggest difference I seen was when we run through these pylons that the second set of tires, I didn't knock down quite as many, so I figured they must have been just a little bit better, but they wasn't a whole lot much better.
Well, the first set felt a little more stable to me than the second set did. The second set waved around right smart and had a lot of sway in the back end.
Did you have to do more correcting on that second set?
Certainly did. The second set it required a much more steering than the first set did.
Well, the first set of tires seemed to give me a lot of sway through the pylons and didn't have quite as much control of the car. It would slip in a real tight turn, and the second set seemed to stick tighter in the tight turns and get a lot better bite and just made the car more stable through the pylons.
You've just heard stock car racing champions comment on what they learned while driving cars just like yours. They drove on both rayon and nylon cord tires at highway speed and discovered they had more control, better stability, a smoother ride on rayon. This confirms scientific evidence being gathered on directional stability with a specially instrumented car and evidence from the laboratory where high-speed impact tests prove rayon cord tires have greater rupture resistance than those made with nylon cord at highway speeds and temperatures. Rayon is truly a modern tire cord, up to date in every respect, even when compared with the newest cord materials. Rayon is the one fiber selected by all American tire makers for use in the revolutionary new radial ply tire. Radials, the tires of the future, deliver exceptional traction, tread wear, directional stability, overall driving safety. And these remarkable tires are built with rayon, the tire cord of the future and the present. So remember, it's not just rubber or tread that makes the difference in tire performance. It's what's inside that counts. That's the real inside story.